said February 7th, but I declare it seems like it is April 7th. Wouldn't you agree as far as the weather is concerned?
Beautiful day.
Beautiful day, but my problem is this is global warming in the middle of January. I mean February.
That is the harsh reality that we are experiencing global warming, and a topic that we've shared and talked about in the past, and definitely need to bring it up again because there are some easy things that we can do in order to try to slow it down. Not to say that we can reverse it, but we sure can not continue to add to it. So tonight we are, Tyrone, if you haven't seen him before, he's our behind the scenes guy. We got to come up with a different name for him because he is the I'm not behind the scenes guy tonight. But we are talking about a very interesting topic, and our guests are having some technical issues. So to our listeners, you might be stuck with us for right now. But we're talking about what does a healthy relationship look like? While we're waiting on our guests, Dr. Kane, can we just briefly talk about what's happening with COVID?
COVID is still present. COVID is here to stay. COVID, I think we can look at it like we, at least for right now, in terms of its occurrence, just much like the flu. The severity of which can vary depending on the individual, just like the severity of the flu can vary on the individual. It still is well, although it's not mandatory, it is a very smart and wise idea to protect yourself and your family members with vaccination. And I know, Ms. Turner, sometimes we discuss how it seems sometimes we go to some places we're the only one wearing masks. But I'm sorry, I don't mind wearing a mask to protect my wife and my kids and my grandkids from the effects of COVID, because even though they may or may not have, especially if they may not have some type of comorbidity, some illness that can take them out in the presence of COVID. You don't need COVID. You don't need that comorbidity. It can be a very healthy person and take them out. And all of us can think of examples where it did. So get your vaccination and still wear your mask in the appropriate circumstances. And we can talk about the appropriate circumstances on another broadcast.
Yeah, some people have shared that they feel uncomfortable wearing a mask because they were the only one with one on when they looked around. And so they took theirs off because they felt uncomfortable being the only one. And I remind them, yeah, but unfortunately, if any of those people have to get hospitalized or stuck home with COVID, then who's going to be uncomfortable at that point, right? Not that we wish anything bad on anyone, but it's just a reality.
It is the reality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, with that being said, we have one of our guests on, Ms. Turner, and I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, tonight we're talking about, again, what does a healthy relationship look like? And we are pleased to have Reverend John Myers on with us. Reverend Myers, we tried to pinch hit for you, but I stalled and started talking a little bit about COVID because we were waiting for, and I shared with our viewers that we were waiting for our guests who know more about this topic than I do.
Anyway, than COVID?
No, okay, let me check, Fred. We talked about COVID because you weren't on to talk about relationship. And
he's a comedian.
I see he's a comedian. We were fixing our hair before the show, and if you look at Reverend Myers, you'll see what's missing. But he's still important to fix his hair. So
yeah, he doesn't have a beard. He needs a beard.
So this is an interesting topic, one that, we talk about relationships. We've been talking about, Tyrone and Dr. Kane and I have been talking about this for a while. They are married. I'm not. That wasn't an advertisement, by the way. It was just a fact. And so we we lost Reverend Myers again, but hopefully we'll come back. But in all seriousness, we've been talking a while about getting someone on to have a discussion about relationships. And we felt that the month of February, because Valentine's Day is next Tuesday, would be a good time to delve into this topic. If you're tuning in with us, post your comments or as we begin the discussion, give us a call at 888-669-1280. We've been having some technical issues with our phone line, so you may be limited to typing in your message to us or your comments. Because when we talk about relationships, when Dr. Kane and Tyrone and I were kicking around the topic for tonight, we always like to come up like, what's our theme? What's our topic for the night? We talked about, Tyrone said, do's and don'ts, relationships 101 and 102. I want to know when the number can end it. Is it relationships 999? Because when it comes to relationships, it can go on and on and on, right? And then we kicked around healthy versus unhealthy relationship. So I'm the only lady on the panel. So guess what? I am going to pinch this question to you by first saying to all of you, if you have children, did you ever or have you had a conversation with your children at some point about relationships, particularly if they're of age to get into a relationship with a significant other?
I throw it out there first, and then I let my other two more smarter guys on the phone on the broadcast speak. I can't, one of the things I'd say a kind of precursor to that question, Ms. Turner, is did you kind of if you're one of the married individuals on here, did you have a discussion about relationships with your children and your spouses, the family relationship before you got married, before you had kids? Did you get an understanding of what those relationships may incur from your point of view, and then your significant other, and hopefully future spouse, or if whatever, about that before you actually got married? If you guys catch my drift.
Yeah, especially if you had dysfunctional parental relationship, right? If you didn't grow up in a household where you were in that you witnessed a stable relationship, how do you learn, Reverend Myers, to be in a relationship if you have not had that modeled in your life?
Reverend Myers,
can you hear us, Reverend Myers? He's thinking about it like, whoa, she started heavy with me.
There's no stalling on this show,
You got to open your mouth and let words come out.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, a couple of things you said. You got to be, I've learned to be careful. And that's, what is a dysfunctional relationship? Because what may be dysfunctional for you is functional for me. And as long as both of those people are okay with their relationship, it's difficult to call it dysfunctional, because I've seen the picture perfect relationship and they're catching hell.
Gotcha.
Where I've seen the ones that we would say, you guys got to be kidding me. And they've been together 2 years past eternity. So it's being careful to kind of picture we paint, what we look at, and put that on someone else, because now we're going to create a dysfunction in their relationship and say, I don't know why it didn't work. I gave them all the tools. When one of the things we look at in relationships is not necessarily calling what they're doing bad, but seeing how we can make it better. So it's I go by the old story of good, better, best. Never let it rest till your good is better and your better is best. So we can always.
Did you get that?
Hey, yeah, I got it. Trust me.
Peter Piper picked the pepper. Go.
I'm sorry, Reverend Myers. That was so good. I wanted to
good. Right. So it's just and it's coming to the understanding. So we as people can do more pressure to other people's relationships if we're not careful.
Thank you.
I've seen couples that actually got into argument huddling under the cover.
Mm.
And I looked at them and I said, what are you guys doing? It's like, man, it's cold. But to me, that was strange. But to them, it's normal. So you go with their definition of normalcy and just say, how can we do better?
So, Rev, let me ask you.
Go ahead.
Is there a time before marriage that you, and if so, what are the things you should be discussing about relationship before marriage as it relates to marriage?
Okay. What position are you in that question? Am I a parent? Am I getting into marriage? Am I in it? I mean, where's the position at, so you know the type of conversation?
Yeah, and I know that was very broad, in terms of what I asked, and it was intentional because this is not an easy subject. Healthy versus unhealthy sounds kind of easy in terms of the discussion, but in terms of relationship, when you look at the totality of it, this is not a really easy subject to discuss. But for brevity's sake, let me ask this. Couple come to you before they get married and they want to do premarital counseling. What are your recommendations?
What do we discuss, or what do I recommend?
Yeah. What are your recommendations for discussion?
Well, what I use in my premarital counseling is everything the couples have come to me with. So my premarital counsel goes, you guys ready for this?
Nope.
My premarital counseling consists of conflict resolution. It consists of intimacy. It consists of finances. It consists of cool off time, off limit places. And what that means is I have couples at that moment they come to me, that night when they leave, they have to set up, if we get in an argument and we're going to cool off, how much cool off time do we need? We set a cool off time right away. So what that means is if our cool off time is 3.5 hours, in 3.5 hours, we come back. And what I tell people is when you step out of an argument to cool off, God steps in to help you. When you stay in the argument to cool off, God steps out. The other thing you're doing is when you're cooling off, and this is only for cool off times, you set up off limit places you cannot go. Because if not, you're coming back to the argument you left and 3 that you brought with you. So they set.
Yeah.
Wow.
So those places consist of things like family and friends' houses, bars, clubs, restaurants. They set those places up. Hey, because if we go here, the enemy has somebody waiting there for you. Hey, pretty lady, what a man treating you like that for? Hey, stud, what that woman treat? He's got somebody set up. We discuss intimacy. How often a week do you like to have sex? We discuss sex toys. We discuss orgasms. We discuss lingerie. We discuss visiting as far as who can visit, how long they can visit. So we discuss where you want to live. What house do you think you should buy? What type of cars you think? Everything is put on the table. What are your goals? What are your dreams? What are your visions? So when you step into the relationship, you have more information moving forward rather than trying to piecemeal it as you move. So now we start off on a better foundation. Foundation steps 1 and 2 are implemented. We don't have to jump to 4. And what happens is many couples jump in a relationship and they try to get to step 4, but without 1 and 2, 3 and 4 falls. So they're constantly starting over. And that's the awesomeness of premarital. I put everything in that couples have come to me with that they say it wouldn't have stopped me from getting married, but at least I would have known.
Rev, one of the things that I'm going to testify. Not necessarily saying it's a great thing.
Hold on.
So we've been married. I have to do the math sometimes, but we've been married at least about 44 years, okay, in terms of how long we've been married. And one of the first things we said, we never go to bed mad with each other. You know, that got tossed out the window somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of those things you committed to that didn't work out, you know, because I guess they couldn't get past the anger or whatever upset them, and
Right.
you know, so on and so on. I'm just throwing something out as a point of discussion. What do you think? Would have been better for me to say something different than that, or what?
No, one of the things, and this is where I tell couples, especially premarital, there is no answer to any question you can give me or that I require that's worth damaging our intimacy. It takes about 6 months to rebuild damaged intimacy. Why would I damage that? So sometimes it's learning. I don't need an answer to this question. What we do is we dig and we dig and we dig. I teach couples, and this is a crazy thing to tell couples. When you marry an adult. Treat them as an adult.
Yeah, that is a weird thing. Don't they know they marrying adults? They only allow them to marry adults, right?
Oh no, that's not weird.
Right.
You got to get some clarification on that. I mean, hey.
So here's a clarification. Somebody goes into the parent role slowly but firmly. When you marry an adult, you let an adult make adult decisions. They do suffer adult consequences and adult rewards, but you're an adult, meaning if I say, hey, we're going to talk about this, and you say, no, we're not, I accept your opinion and keep on going. I can't make you talk about it. And when one person in a relationship takes the adult role and make the other one talk about it, they talk about everything but that. I talk about your mama, my mama, your sister, my sister, but we never discuss what the issue is. So it's treating the person as an adult. Say, hey, baby, can we talk about this? I don't want to talk about it. Okay, we're done. I am totally done with it. I am done with it. Here's the motto. When I step out of an argument, God always steps in. When I step in an argument, God always steps out. He says, I share my glory with no one. And that's why couples say, we fought all night, but y'all didn't discuss the issue. You started turning it into each other. See, that's why nobody like talking to you. That's why I don't like talking to you. No, we're still talking about who put the dent in the car.
Yeah, but that sounds good. I mean, wow, I would put that on a bumper sticker. That sounds good. But the reality is, and from what you just said, was that if there's something that you want to talk to and you ask her or she asks him and they don't want to talk about it, it doesn't get discussed. The issue doesn't disappear.
It doesn't disappear. But what you're saying is, I respect you as an adult, because what you got to be careful. If I push this further, I'm going to damage intimacy. So anytime I tell you, and you can talk to 99% of the men, they'll say, when they hear their wives say, I got something I want to talk about, the first thing the man said, what do I do now?
You sure is. Oh, Lord. I might say, oh, Lord. I start calling on Jesus. Oh, Lord.
So what I tell couples is, if what you're doing is not working, why do you still do it? It ain't I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it ain't working.
It's moronic.
It was like anything else. It's easy. It's easy to do what you always known that you could do.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. See, it's as easy to become comfortable with something that doesn't work as it is something that does work. Now, I want to go back to the original question that Ms. Jocelyn was asking about, when do we start talking to our kids about it? And I was thinking about, whoa, I never did talk to my kids. I was still trying to figure it out on my own when I had kids. I got to tell them something I didn't quite know enough about at the time. So I, in essence, left them to learn the way I learned, which was probably
trial and error.
Yeah, as ineffective as the way that I learned. But it was my thought to give them no information as opposed to poor information.
And I always thought of it, Reverend Myers, may I make a comment real quick?
Yes,
and see, I look at it as kind of different, because to me, the lessons that children learn, and I don't have children either, so I'm really feeling lost in the conversation tonight. But to me, the lessons that children learn are the way they see you interact with one another, the way your parents share with you how you should interact with your grandparents or your elders, if you will. And so to me, those are life lessons that can help you later on with any relationship that you're dealing with. I'm gonna pause a moment and welcome Anita Spencer. Yay to the discussion.
Hello,
welcome,
everyone.
Anita.
Hello. I had a couple of
Turner
technical
needs-
difficulties, but I'm here.
All
Thank
righty.
you, thank you so much.
Miss Turner needs some help.
So anyway,
ahead,
so
Miss
that's
Turner, I'm
why
sorry.
that's what I'm thinking.
I'm here. I'm
and to
ready.
me- And to me, that's what the advice that parents can give their children about relationships is seeing how you react with one another, teaching your children how to be respectful of grown people as our parents used to do. So I look at it as, I look at it differently. Go ahead, Reverend Myers. What were your thoughts? As lessons, not differently. I look at it as those as lessons.
Right. One of the things I believe, and I teach couples, many people have the concept, and I hear it, and I think it's kind of different. I don't accept it too much, but if it works for them, fine. But they got this concept of we don't let our kids see us argue. I think you're setting your kids up for a mega shock in life because it's a natural part of life. What kids admire the most is I see my parents argue. I saw them fuss, but I always saw them come together. The same way your kids see you argue, they have to see you come together because everything in life is not going to go smooth, easy, and pretty. You're going to have disagreements. When we don't train our kids for disagreements, we train them for set downs, setbacks, letdowns, a whole type of things. And they also pick up the title of, I'm failing because we argue. But what they didn't realize was mom and dad argued. They just did it in the backyard or down the street. It's okay to argue. Even Apostle Paul said it's okay. You're going to have disagreements, but it's how you come back together. Hey, and it's learning to discuss, like I said before, it's learning to keep the conversation on the issue and not on each other. I can blame you for everything. You blame me for everything, but we never solve who gonna call the plumber.
Well, I could say I've never, my wife and I have been married 30 years. And what I hear a lot of people define as argument, we've never had.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had a situation where there was a need to, for any circumstance, raise my voice and or her raise her voice to me about a situation or circumstance that transpired. But yet this goes back to something you said earlier. This was a conversation I had with her before we got married. I laid out the expectations of how I expected disagreements to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have the terminology that you had, but it was the similar process. You speak your mind, say what you think. I speak my mind, say what you think. We go our separate ways. We come back and we make a decision how we move forward as a family. So that precluded us having to get into that heated discussions or arguments. So I'm blessed to never have had one.
So Ms. Turner, just bring Ms. Spencer up to date as quickly as you can, because you can do this with a lot more finesse than I can.
One conversation that I've had with Ms. Spencer is just the whole notion of how we feel about ourselves. Sometimes and I'm going to say ladies, because that's what I'm a lady, right? We don't feel good about ourselves. Our self-esteem is poor. And, I think if we felt okay about ourselves, then we can then have healthy relationships. And then we know what to expect or what we require of others, the way we want them to treat us. Anita does some, and I'm not going to speak for her because I know I'll botch it up, but she has, have some conversations with ladies. She has these sessions. Anita, tell us a little bit about your sessions and what kinds of things you talk about as it relates to, the way we feel about ourselves and relationships. Or if I just botch that up, then I'm gonna just let you take it away.
No, that's okay. My name is Anita Spencer, everyone, and good evening again. I have an organization called First Step Jacks. And one of the things I've been doing for the last 12 years, and 10 of them I've been going into different prison systems. I don't have a ministry. I always tell people that I have movement. It's a difference for me. And so what I have always known and I noticed about who I am as a Black woman is that we have self-esteem issues. Self-esteem is at the bottom of everything. And so what I realize, men and women, no matter your age or your age, what your financial status is, at some point our self-esteem attacks a lot of us. And then a lot of us, we inherit self-esteem. It comes from our parents who didn't feel good and so on and so forth. So for me, I just think you attract your partner based on your self-esteem level. I feel like you date on your self-esteem level. And so I think it's very important to feel good about yourself so you can make sure you got the right partners. I heard the gentleman talking about arguing earlier. And one of the things I can say is that my husband and we do have disagreements. I do raise my voice. I'm very realistic about what I live in. But one of the things we do is we respect each other. We've never argued in front of our children, our grandkids, or anything like that. And we keep our disagreements to our room per se. Even though we are empty nesters, we still have certain things that we put in place when we first met. And so for me, I think our biggest issue is not teaching people our love style. We're dating on our self-esteem level. So either someone's going to pull you up or you're going to pull them down to your level. And so we need to make sure the people we're dealing with feels good about themselves, because if not, if you don't feel good and you're a male, 9 times out of 10, your wife or woman is going to have lower self-esteem than you. That's an issue. That is an issue, because we need to feel good about ourselves on a certain level so we can keep pulling each other up. A lot of times we get people that don't fit our needs, don't do the things that we need them to do. They pull out the worst in us, and we still feel like this is who I need to go with. This is what I need to be with. This is what I'm used to. And self-esteem is taking our community out. It's taking our community. I go to the prisons. Self-esteem is taking our community down. And that's what it is. It's self-esteem.
If that be true, then in a society that appears to be attacking the Black man, young, old, and all, which then affects his self-esteem, then are we saying then that there's greater risk and opportunity for dysfunction between the couples because of this here challenge with self-esteem?
Yes, absolutely. That's what I'm saying, because this is my thing. One of the things I hear a lot of people say is I don't play. Black women especially. I love Black women because I'm a Black woman, but we are doing a lot of things wrong in our house. First, Black women are the first teachers of the home. A Black woman is going to teach her kids to respect their dad. Dads are gone. Dads are running businesses, doing whatever they do. Women spend the most time, especially the critical times when they're young, with these kids. We're turning these kids out. So when I hear Black women and I go speak around different places and I hear them, I don't play, and my mama didn't play. Somebody is playing, because our kids are the prison is full of kids. So somebody's playing. And so for me, I'm just like, it's very important that we're very real about that. We're doing a lot of things wrong in our house. I watch Black women control and dominate their entire house, and their husband can't even say anything to their son. He taking out the trash and that boy playing video games. We got a problem. That's self-esteem. And we got to step up, and a lot of these women, they've got to change the mindset. They got to change. And that's why I tell women who are in my boot camps and my self-esteem boot camps is, if you want your kids to grow and be a better person, you got to grow and be a better person. They're not just going, and eventually they're going to get there, but they could get there a lot easier if you would have yourself together. So for me, we are doing a lot of things wrong in our homes. We need to change the mindset of what we're doing. We need to have a different conversation with our children. We need to have different conversations with our mates, because a lot of times we're just not being real with who we are and what we have going on. So I just feel like it's time for the Black community to take itself back. We integrated, we use the bathroom now, we eat with white people, our lives didn't get any better. So at this point, we got to do something different. We got to take our communities back. And how are we going to do that? Our self-esteem.
It's not about assimilation, right? In terms of a culture, it's more about how, you can finish the question if you want to. But you know, one of the things that we see in our society is as you discussed just now, since we talked about integration, you can sometimes paraphrase that to be assimilation in terms of the behavior and thought processes of those around you. Whether it's about religion, whether it's about a white household, whether it's about, you know, you assimilate with the powerful Black female or the dominating Black male or whatever it may be. So, you know, when you run into those type of, you have discussions on those values as it relates to relationships. I'm just kind of throwing something out there, see what sticks.
I mean, I understand. I don't think we need to assimilate anymore. I think we're the only culture that's. I think that we're the only culture, and I agree with you. We're the only culture still trying to assimilate. Everybody that comes to this country says this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go find people that look like us, or we're gonna go build a community of people that look like us. We'll assimilate what? We're the only ones still trying to do that, and it's tearing our community down. We are always trying to be inclusive. We want to include everybody. I hear people talking about these Black and brown people. You don't ever hear those people saying brown and Black people. We're always trying to include people, and we always want to have some other gaze on us. We don't need a white gaze, a Hispanic gaze. We don't need no gaze on us. We can do these things ourselves if we choose to. It's just about choosing. And this is the thing. Even if we went and stood up on a mountaintop and we got all the Black people's attention, it's still going to be Black people that's going to disagree with what we're doing. It's always going to be some that's going to go in a completely opposite direction than what we're doing. So what you have to do is reach out to people who are like-minded, who can grow, because that's what and how we're going to I think be beneficial to the future of our community. Our community is in trouble. There's an urgency here.
All right. So now I know early on, Ms. Jocelyn, you said that, you know, you made a couple of confessions. But I think from my perspective, you have probably a very unique opportunity to be able to peer into things that you see and give oftentimes a more honest synopsis than the people who are living in the middle of it. See, you ask me how my marriage is doing, and I say, great. You see my marriage from the outside, and you could give a more realistic opinion. So I would love to hear from Ms. Jocelyn to just give us an insight of what do you see from and that sky view of relationships as a whole.
Well, it's funny you say that, because years ago, my group of friends, and I'm not going to call their names out because, you know, obviously they wouldn't want me to, but one of them said to me, we've got to stop talking to Jocelyn about our marital problems, because I think we're convincing her not to get married. Right? As young women, as young couples who were married and you know, growing together, trying to figure out how to be a wife and a husband and establish a household with one another. That's what they said to me. And obviously, I don't think that's true, but who knows? Because it's true. I'm not married and I never have been. And so, but I also think, you know, I was listening to Anita, and I also was taking some of what Reverend Meyer says, and, you know, how you feel about yourself the whole notion of the people, the energy that you take off, you irradiate, who does your energy stick with, or who do you attract based on who you are, right? And so again, without putting down the guys I've dated, I'm not going to say that I've dated deadbeat guys because they've been nice guys. We just were obviously not right for one another, right? So, when we're younger, we choose people, or we're chosen for various reasons. And I think tonight we did the show because I agree with Anita that when it comes to our community and the way our relationships are going, in many instances, people do portray them, Reverend Myers. I know we talked a few minutes ago about as dysfunctional. People are in dysfunctional households, but they're functioning very well. Their functionality might be different from what our functionality is. They may not cook, but we just think it's appalling that they eat out every night. It works for them. Right? Because we feel that you need to eat out at home. So I think the first thing is we have to ease up on one another and not be so judgmental. What works for you works for you. When I met your wife, Tyrone, I thought she was a very nice lady. Same thing with Dr. Cage, right? Nice ladies. And, I might have thought, but I didn't say it like, God, they're nice. How did they end up with them? I might have thought that, right? But I didn't say it. One thing I would like to talk about tonight, because I was talking with a friend who is she's retired now.
Miss Turner, lean back into the mic when you look.
Oops. See, you made me mess up, Dr. Kane. I was talking to a friend who used to be a marriage counselor, and she was telling me, make sure we talk about what's needed when we begin a relationship. And so what do you all think? And, and of course, we obviously think about communication. We need to learn how to communicate with one another. And that seems to be the breakdown that a lot of people have. They either don't share how they really feel about something. And I love what Reverend Meyer said earlier, that we have to recognize when we go in a relationship, we're in it with an adult. And you're right. Somebody's dominant behavior will take over and want to tell the other person what to do as though they're talking to a child. And if we remember that we're adults. So what do you all think about, is communication the very first thing and the best thing that can happen in a relationship for it to flourish? Reverend Myers, I'll point that to you. I like how Reverend Myers laugh when I ask him a question.
One of the a lot of questions you're asking are questions that people should look at prior to getting married. Unfortunately, what we do is we swallow a lot of things that we should put on the table and say, hey, you know what? We got to work on it's not bad, but we got to work on making it better. The thing with communication that I found out is women talk to men like they're talking to other women, and men talk to women like they're talking to other men. Communication mix-up comes in because women are so vague in what they say that they expect a man to translate it on point, and we can't. Our DNA is not built that way. A good example is a woman would say, "I just need you to show me more love. I gotta go out there and wash the car." To us, that's love. To a woman, that's just something cheap.
It's a clean car.
Right. So it's learning what is it. And when I ask women the question of what do you mean? What is it exactly you're looking for? Many of them always introduce me to Mr. So if you don't know what you're looking for, how am I supposed to know? So it's being specific on what you want. Take the guessing game out. For men, I tell them, don't accept vagueness. Go for what do you mean? No. Too vague. What do you mean? When you get a chance to do something, it's not a good time for me. What time do you want it done by? And as we start training each other in this family, this is how we communicate. One of the things we have in communication is we're too busy looking at other people's houses rather than staying in ours. Hey, that's how they communicate over there. Over here, we do it this way. Here's one of the major questions I ask women and men. I ask women, is this a man that you can follow? It's a yes or no. It's not, well, if he, no, yes or no. Is this a woman that you can lead? Yes or no? Now, using that answer, now you have to learn how to go forward.
You know, Reverend Red, one of the things that you, and I won't miss Spencer to comment on what you just said. One of the things that you kind of, and I'm talking as if sometimes I talk about, my wife is talking to me. Let me put it that way. It's like, who say you got to lead, and who say you got to follow? Because that might be the question that comes up. Who's the leader? Who's the follower? Should there be a leader or should there be a follower? You know.
You want the answer to that question?
Yeah.
Okay. My counseling is from a biblical approach. Every organization has a leader. It has to. The companies I work for, when I walk in there, who's in charge? That's the boss. Being a leader doesn't make you the dominant or the bully. It just means I'm willing to accept total accountability for everything that goes wrong or right in this house. God has already appointed the leader. Whether you choose to accept it or not, you will get the reward and or you will get the punishment. One of the things I caution
Hold up. One before you go any further. Repeat that definition. Because I think that needs to be. I was
going to ask the question because I got 5 girls, so I know it's about to happen.
So
right.
What's the leader?
The leader is who God has appointed. It doesn't make him better, but every organization must have a leader. If you have, and where couples come into relationships, and I think this is something that somebody out of the backwoods of hell came up with and decided it sounds beautiful. We're going to run this relationship 50-50. That's a monster. It's being able to say, I step in, I'm in charge. I will listen to everything you say, and if what you say makes sense, I'm like, hey, baby, you go ahead and run with this. You got it. I'm still leading, but leaders have to learn to lead from the front, from the middle, and from the rear. It takes nothing from me to use my wife's idea or for her to use mine, and it's something getting men to understand. She's your helpmate. God has given you a purpose. Can she match that purpose? That's where that pre-conversation comes in. But we've got to be able to teach men, you lead. You lead, and too many men are following because we as men, we are afraid of failure. And every man, regardless of who, what, shape, size, wants a woman to come behind him and say, hey, babe, how we make it better? Not you, how we.
Rev, I got to interject this because I know the kind of audience we've talked to in the past. You take an approach in terms of, from a biblical standpoint, which I'm not making a statement to agree or disagree. What I am saying is, I look at today's generation. There's a large number of I'm gonna call them youngsters just because I'm old, but there's a large number of people that are not into the religious behavior or thought processes that is help guiding your counseling. So when you run into those people who may not be of a religious thought processes or of a religious background, is what particularly when you start saying the man leads. How does a couple overcome that? How do they deal with that?
But before Reverend Myers get in there, I want to say I think the real key point is how he defined leading. For so long, we have diluted this understanding of what leadership is. We have leadership to mean the boss, the guy, the woman, the person that tells everyone what to do. Let's not overlook what he said. A leader is a good listener. And if the wife says this is where we should go, and that's the thing that makes sense, That's the category, the thing that she has more experience and knowledge in. What good leader wouldn't follow that? So it's just what he said, and I wanted to get him to repeat that. The leader is a person who's willing to take responsibility for the direction that a couple, a group, or organization move in. And then he said that leaders have to learn to lead from the front, from the middle, and from the rear. If you are in a relationship, I don't care what generation it was in, if these types of things were adhered to, then it wouldn't be such a negative connotation to leader. Because I'm not bossing you around. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not even making you do anything.
Right.
I'm moving us as a group, as an organization, as a couple, further along in where we want to be.
Now I'm going to say something that sounds a little bit antithetical, but so I'm going to play the devil's advocate. Women lead organizations, and if I'm a woman and I bring that point up, that yeah, I understand, can appreciate the concept of a leader, but you have a woman that leads. I'm just going to choose something. Yeah, maybe Home Depot.
Okay.
I forgot. But what she's saying, to the people that's under her is, I'm the leader of this organization. Now, whether or not that organization is the Keynes household or the Smith household, how do you accept, or do you accept, or ever accept a woman in a leadership role? And Ms. Miller, you need to chime in on this.
Allow me to answer that. One of the things, first, let me go back to the original statement you made, and I'll get to that. Many people so busy looking at the Bible as a holy book, they forget it's an awesome book of knowledge, of guidance, of instructions. It actually covers things in there that actually work. They're real life scenarios. The book of Joshua told the people, it said, you choose you now who you're going to serve. But as for me and my house, we'll serve the Lord. If you got a woman that's running a multi-million-dollar company, great. That's not something I pull from her. That's something I encourage. Hey, baby, how can I help support that dream? But my family is still on a mission to go here. God is still holding me responsible and accountable. We go here. In this house, I'm running it. At her organization, if I step in her organization, I fall under her authority. But in this house, I'm held accountable. I'm held responsible. I'm not doing it as a bully or thug or anything. Hey, this is how we work it. But we know that before the relationship starts. Hey, God has got me on a plan. This is where the family is going. Can you handle that? Yes or no? Yes or no? If you say no, hey, we're good friends. We're good. But I can't deviate from the plan because we will be punished. So it's just understanding the simple thing.
So I wanted to listen to what everyone was saying. So first, I don't come from a biblical standpoint of view. That's not my take on any of this. Okay. I have a partner. My husband and I are in a partnership, and I'm going to help him and he's going to help me. We're going to make decisions together. We're going to sit down. We're going to say, hey, babe, how do you feel about this? If he doesn't want to discuss it, that's fine. I had to teach him my love style, and I had to teach him how to, argue when we disagree together. We had to teach each other that, because I feel like so many times we go into these relationships with some very unrealistic expectations. So for me, I feel like if that's the path that people take, if they want to take that path and they're leading and they're following and they're doing all that, I feel like that's great. That's your thing. For me, I have a partnership, and it works very well for me and for us. Not only do I live with my husband, but I work with him as well. So for us, we have a different type of dynamic. But what's important for me is to make sure that I'm living as realistic as I possibly can in my relationship. I go back to self-esteem because, again, you date on your self-esteem level and you attract who and what you are. So it's very important to make sure that that balance is there for us. That's how we work our relationship. My husband and I are been married for 19 years. We've been together for 21. We have a blended family of 11 children. So we are not traditional in any sense of the word. And because I know that, we've had to operate and run our home a lot differently than most. So for me, I just feel like it's what you're in and what you're building. Everybody is building something different. Everybody is moving differently. If you're coming from a biblical perspective, then you're going to move on that. I have friends who are Muslims, Hebrew Israelites, Jews. I have them with all different backgrounds, and their homes are all ran differently because people come from different perspectives. And I respect all paths to God. I just don't have to be on that path with you necessarily. I can be on the path I want to be on and have my own relationship with my higher power. So I think it's very important who you're talking to, what level you're at, and how you want to reach the people. These young people today, they are not religion. A lot of them are not interested in the religion aspect of being in relationships and different things, because we live in a transgender society. So with that being said, dating is completely different now. You got to know who people are from birth certificate. But again, it goes back to self-esteem. One of the things I do, I'm gonna show this piece of paper. I know you guys can't see it, but this piece of paper is something I give to my ladies. It's called The Power of Relationships. And the very first thing, 2 questions I ask them is, how do you go into relationships? How are you going into not only that, but how do you go into relationships with your girlfriends? Do you meet somebody at work and they just become your girlfriend all of a sudden? I think that one of the conversations that we as people need to have, Black people in particular, we need to start. We can't just say, okay, I'm giving my child at age 16 permission to date. We need to teach them how to date, what kind of conversations to have. Are you asking about someone's parents? Are you asking about their lifestyle? We got to start having a whole different conversation with our kids, because our kids can leave our house, turn their phones on. They can see porno. They can see LGBT community. They can see whatever they want to see on those phones. Our conversations today have to be completely different and very realistic about going into these relationships that we're going into, and the partnerships and leading and things like that. We got to have a different conversation with our kids. When I go speak to young people, they are attached to me because I'm being very realistic with them. I'm not giving them something that doesn't sound realistic or sounds 3,000 years old. So we got to have a different conversation.
Right, but may I please ask a question? Because it sounds 3,000 years old, does it work? A lot of things.
I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I believe it does.
It was a rhetorical question. And one of the things I'm saying is, sometimes in trying to keep up, when people come to me, they automatically know who they're coming to. I explain that way before time. So there's no second guessing, hey, this, and this. I just show people things that's been tested, tried, and true, and it works. When I say the leadership part, for me, I'm stepping up with full authority. I take full accountability for everything, because we're going to be held accountable. In all those households you mentioned, there are men that step up. In Muslim households, there are men that step up. In the Jewish households, there are men that step up, and they take the accountability. They're not stepping up, and as Brother Tyrone said, they're not stepping up as bullies. But isn't it great to know that the head of that house is leading with love, compassion, authority, grace, and mercy? And he's saying, like you said, hey, sit down at the table and say, babe, I got this idea. What do you think? Give me your input. That's the type of leadership that we look for in men. But the only way we can look for it is we have to demonstrate it. When I step in places, I want to show them, hey, real men, they don't fit in. They stand out. If you're trying to fit in, you've already lost the battle. Real women, they do not fit in. They will stand out.
Well, Rev, I'm sorry, Rev, I have to interject. As I said, I got 5 girls. Okay. These girls are the love of my life. Okay, I got a son. And he's the love of my life as well. But these 5 girls, I want what's best for them. And unfortunately, they have not chose some of them. I mean, I'm not saying all five. You know, there have been in some of them, there have not been good relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel it was my daughters, but of course I'm biased, okay, because of my daughters. I didn't feel it was my daughters. And I look at the behavior of those males, and I had a concern with their behavior. But again, with I'm being judgmental because of who I am and what that's part of me being me. They were not, I thought, good for at least within that household in terms of judgment as good leaders, as what you're proposing. And I would love if they were. Don't get me wrong, because I want my daughters to be happy in life and want them to have a successful and good families, which we did, but it was not because I was a great guy, a great leader. It was because of all the hard work we had to put into it as partners. Okay. And it wasn't what they say, peaches and cream. It was really hard work. And we're at year 43 and it's still hard work. So the only thing that some people because one of my daughters texts me and says, but why is Rev saying men? They're having, I don't want to say conniptions, but they're having concerns about the approaches being those of what men think. And I get, being a female, of course she's going to think about what happened to her and the things that what she wanted to do and was willing to do, even following along the line, my impression, following along the line of what you were saying, and it didn't go that way with the other person. They didn't think like what you did.
Well,
Right.
And I think one of the things that I want to say really quick is that we got to understand we put people in positions they shouldn't be in. Sometimes we're making people the king and they're the court gesture. We are putting people in the wrong positions because we are not, again, sitting down and communicating effectively. Again, before our children leave our home, we need to teach them how to date, what to look for in people. We're not doing that. So when our kids go out and they start meeting people, because you got to understand, you got to ask your kids one thing: what is it that you're looking for in a partner? Because as parents, it's like handing off the baton to them. So it is going to be very important that we have this conversation about how to date, how to go out there, how to be with these different people, because everybody's different. Everybody's not going to be like your father or your uncle and sweet like your, it's not going to be that way. And so we got to teach our kids how to vet people a little bit better, because in our Black community, we're so accepting. It's just in us, it's in us to just be accepted. So we accept a lot of stuff that we shouldn't be accepted as individuals, and we got to do better.
Wow. What a conversation. Yeah, I was about to say, what a conversation. Let me get Miss Jocelyn back on before we be 2 hours in.
So obviously tonight's discussion has been very lively. I love it. And Dr. Kane has been trying to convince us that we need to go longer than an hour. And on tonight's topic, I definitely think that we could have gone longer. We'd like to, first of all, thank you to our guests. Looks like we lost Reverend Myers, but hopefully he'll come back on. We are at the end of our podcast, but we definitely would like to continue the discussion because we knew we wouldn't get in everything tonight, but we wanted to start the conversation on what a healthy relationship, or I forgot the topic because we were all into it. I'm like, what are we supposed to be talking about tonight? What does a healthy relationship look like? And I like having the different,
and how do you get there?
The varying opinions of our guests. So at the end of every podcast, we like to give our guests an opportunity to chime in and share your final thoughts on tonight's topic. Anita, I'll start with you. What are your final thoughts for our guests on what a healthy relationship looks like?
A healthy relationship to me looks like moving in love, moving in love with your partner, the things you do. Be conscious of everything you do with your partner, from how you cook their food, how you take care of their clothes, how you take care of them, period. You got to be conscious on every level so that you can make sure that if you're giving that, you're absolutely going to get it back. Absolutely. So for me, I think moving in love is just the most important thing, because most people don't. They just move unconsciously.
And Anita, how can folks follow you? I know you have a group. So do you have a social media account that they can check you out on?
I do. I'm at Facebook, Anita Spencer. I'm on Instagram, Anita Spencer, Anita O. Spencer. You can find me, Take the First Step Jax, or First Step Jax. I'm also a part of the Melanin Market. So you can find me in different arenas, but that's how you reach me.
Thank you. And Reverend Myers, what are your final thoughts on tonight's topic?
To me, a healthy relationship is one where both people enjoy the relationship. We're enjoying, but what we're doing is we're learning how to grow. We're maturing our relationship. We're not just keeping it here. We're learning how to grow better with each other, how to grow better for each other. We're just learning. We're constantly improving, sitting down, having those conversations. Hey, what can I do better? Not saying I'm going to do it, but now I need to learn you more. It's what you two make work and grow to make better.
Thank you. Thank you again, Reverend Myers and Anita. We also like to give our co-hosts an opportunity to say their final thoughts. I'll start with the behind the scenes guy who's come from behind the scenes guy. Tyrone, what are your final thoughts?
First of all, I want to thank both of our guests for coming on. It was just a pleasure to truly have you on and talk about this subject. What I heard from both of you, though it may have sounded at times different, is that each couple has to find a way to make it work. Ms. Spencer said to move in love. Well, in order to move in love, you got to study the person you're moving with. Reverend Myers tells us that, you got to learn and grow together, whatever it works and functional for you. And how do I get to be better? So the simple thing is to move in love and find a way to constantly make it better. I think that eclipses what our two guests were saying. And Ms. Johnson is going on, so I'll go to Dr. Kane. Let's hear your closing thoughts.
Okay, so I heard both guests, and believe it or not, I can agree with both guests. I understand both guests. I appreciate both guests and their perspectives on marriage. What I do know is that each situation is individualized, and that the individuals involved have to, at least on a basic level, have communication. They may not agree. They may disagree with a whole lot of things. And they may also then at some point recognize this ain't gonna work. Okay. And but if they do want to make it work, they have to agree on how to handle it. As you know, I got a good friend on right now, Dr. William Cody, and he says, my wife and I have been married 50 years. It survived it as a partnership. We still disagree in front of our children and our grandkids. They see how to practice conflict resolution, and I could not agree with that more. Absolutely. Me and my wife, we can get into it. I haven't had the success yet that Dr. Cody has, but I'm working on it every day. Okay, because it's an everyday responsibility, an everyday discussion. And, you wake up one morning and what you said yesterday still applies to today. Even if you were wrong, it's still something that happened yesterday and it's history, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. You got to work through whatever it is about relationship. Now, tonight we did focus a little bit more on marriage, okay? but and we started out with premarital relationship. But what we have to just, in our series of relationship that we plan on having, we have to get to the discussion about all kinds of relationships, okay? Partners, husband, wife, whatever relationship may be. I have a relationship with people at my job, and so that's where I'm going. Well, not anything sexual or anything, but obviously I have a relationship with people at my job because I interact with them every day. I think this is a great time in terms of relationships. Other people's relationship with you affects your relationship with your household. So we cannot get through a good discussion about relationship without addressing the individual's relationship with others. Whether or not, my wife had a great male friend relationship, or me with a female friend relationship, that's a whole nother subject matter. But it's still things that we have to discuss and that we have to get into. Whether you have a relationship with Jesus Christ or not, it's still, if you're going to deal with a person who does have it or do not have it, it's got to come up for discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Kane.
Thanks to our guest. I forgot to say that. I really thank our guest for coming on. And regardless of what the punches were or what the discussions were, whether they agreed or disagreed on the other person's opinion, I think they were excellent guests, and we have got to bring them back.
Thank you, Dr. Kane. And we do have one comment from one of our viewers. Women have and can apply leadership principles in the home. In relationships, men and women need the necessary tools to succeed in a relationship, lead in a relationship, and follow in a relationship. Obviously, we have, all sorts of comments and feedback from people regarding tonight's discussion. I made the comment early on in the show that my friend shared with me that as when they were younger ladies and married, that they needed to stop sharing the issues they were going through as they were starting out as young wives, because they convinced me not to get married. I have to admit that all of them have been married more than 30 years. So they did something right. I want to make sure I still have my friends when I finish this podcast. But
that's a relationship.
This is a very interesting topic. I shared the platform with four married people, I might add. So the next time I will definitely make sure that there is some balance and we have some unmarried people, as I am an unmarried person. And I say that again, not to advertise, even though Dr. Kane told me it was okay that I did, that I'm single and available. I'm sorry, I digress. But to our guests, as always, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your comments. It's always a good opportunity to share at Pause for the Truth, because we like to bring the topics that we feel people that's on their minds. If you have a topic idea that you'd like for us to consider, then please email us at info@pauseforthetruth.com. Again, info@pauseforthetruth.com. If you'd like to be a guest on our show because you are an expert in your own right and you have a particular topic, then tune in. If you know someone who needs to hear the discussion that we had tonight, tell them to tune in to check out our website tomorrow, or go on YouTube and you'll find tonight's rebroadcast. Thank you again to our guests. Good evening. Stay well and safe. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.